it was never about getting people over to a keto diet. Like,
Right.
this is what we want to do with this film. It was never about that. It was about like exploring the thing and being like, let's ask questions. Let's figure this out. Let's get people more educated. And for those who want this lifestyle and who have this lifestyle, we want to help remove a barrier and explain and help them engage a little bit more deeply. I know you're a data guy and a science guy, but I still kind of laugh at like, you know, some of the science that's happening around like animals have consciousness. That's so crazy. I'm like, well, yeah, they have emotions and like, yeah, they all have different personalities. Like, okay, I still sometimes people will ask me, do your horses remember you? Like, no, actually, they think I'm a new person every time.
Probably you right now have, I want to say at least 100,000 calories of fuel stored as fat in your subcutaneous fat stores.
I'm never not gonna think that it's just if you chopped me up and ate me, I would be 100,000 calories.
Tell me who you are and what you do.
Hello. I'm Claire Cornetta. I am the co-founder and principal of a company called Carrot Impact. We are impact producers and work across the film landscape to help bring films out into the world with the most impact possible. So lots of documentaries, some narrative films, some shorts, all the things. And most recently, The Cholesterol Code, your film.
That's right.
Yep.
So for anybody watching this podcast, this is a radical departure from what we normally do. We normally have people who are on with nutrition, with cardiovascular disease, with lots of science. But we're stepping out a little bit. Before we get too far, need to do some disclosures. We're already in a business arrangement.
Yes.
Sorts. There's amongst multiple teams, there's a lot that's all around this cholesterol code movie, which we'll get a chance to talk about. But I also was just kind of excited to discuss this industry that you're in.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't know this about me. When I got here in Las Vegas in 2008, yes, we're going to date me a lot here. I loved doing software, but in particular, I liked digital advertising. And so campaigns where you made experiential websites.
Yeah.
That was all the rage.
Yep.
In 2008.
It was in 2008.
And I was having a blast.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was also watching, because that was the tail end.
Yeah.
And more it became function over form, or I should say, yes, function over form. And that said, the campaigns online for movies, I mean, I don't know that they've ever really slowed down. I think if anything, there's probably more money spent trying to advertise movies than ever before.
It's a fascinating industry to be in, because it has changed so much even since the time I started like 8 years ago ish. And it has changed drastically in that time. Obviously, like the COVID era changed streaming exponentially and the way movies are released. But even like from 2008, really thinking of that as an inflection point of like Netflix coming onto the scene, and I mean, so many. And so,
I mean, the iPhone was introduced literally the year before that.
Right. Exactly.
So even the concept of phones, social media, I mean, people don't realize social media is still like evolving really rapidly.
So quickly. And I mean, it's been such a short period of time, and the cultural chokehold it has on us now is like, I mean, I use extraordinary in not a positive way, but in like a holy shit. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That'll happen. I should have asked that ahead of time. But it's a fascinating, just kind of mind-boggling thing. My dad even like He works at a local media station in Colorado. That's where I grew up. And so I was around media and journalism and why I became interested in storytelling. But my dad oversaw the transition to digital. And I remember like going through that as a kid being like, whoa, it's like on the internet now. That's like, they have to have a website. It's not just broadcast. It's like digital. It was crazy to think that that's like, I guess, 20 years ago now.
Is that kind of what your gateway into this industry was through your parents?
You know, I said for a long time, I was like, I would never go into media. Like my dad does that. Like, no, I like grew up in a newsroom and, you know, was very excited always to see everything, but it was just like boring because it was what my dad did. And so about halfway through college, I was like, oh, fuck, I think I'm going to minor in journalism. And then I started to go the long form route and really felt like, you know, there's just a different level of engagement that you can have with people from a long form standpoint. And I would always rather tell long form stories. And, you know, that doesn't mean an hour and a half documentary. That can mean a 30-minute documentary. It can mean a 25-minute, you know, anything like that's very intentional storytelling that you don't have to be so worried about the journalistic due diligence of like, how's this going to be received? This is going to be the news of the day for a second and then it's going to go away. And like the 24-hour news cycle and just how crazy everything was in like, you know, 2015, 2016 and on made me like, you know, I don't think it's going to be journalism. I think it's going to be film. And so that was a good instinct for me to have at a young age, because I admire journalists a lot. It's a really hard profession, but I have found that I would rather reach people through stories, human-centered stories, and you don't always get to tell that on the news and stuff. And they do a great job, but it's more fun to have more time to talk.
I mean, I feel like I've watched news, just the term news.
Yeah.
Radically transform in such a short amount of time. So of course, again, dating myself, I watched when CNN was coming online and this concept of a 24-hour news station
crazy
was just absolutely revolutionary at that time. And that lasted, I mean, of course there are 24-hour news stations now.
Yes.
But it was front and center, I would say, through much of the mid-90s coming into pretty much the early 2010s, I want to say. And I watched in real time as more and more of the earlier generation just like to go to YouTube. I mean, just this concept of streaming on demand for what would be a viral news clip.
Right.
And it used to be if there was a viral news clip, like I remember 9/11, it would be getting replayed on those cable news channels. Right. And that's how you would end up seeing the footage of when the planes hit or something like that.
Yeah.
Today, a viral clip might be played on a news channel.
Yeah.
But that's probably not where most people have seen it.
Right.
Most people, particularly younger generations, they're expecting it to come through their various streaming feeds.
Yep. I remember studying in my journalism classes in college, like how people are getting their news. And at that time, it was like over 50% of people are getting their news on Facebook. And there's no way to delineate between what's real and what's somebody's, you know, mom drafted in a panic and then posted and it looks the same, or you know, what bots are coming in and, you know, spreading things. And it's like, it's crazy to see, okay, people are just flocking for community, I think, to Facebook. And then it was co-opted in this weird way. But throughout that period, local news remained like the number one most trusted source for people to get news from. And, you know, that's what my dad did. And so I had a newfound respect for local broadcast. And really was like, okay. And that's when I started to kind of put the pieces together. This is about community and people wanting to connect. And we're taking what we can get in this digital age. It's like, it's harder to have organic connection. And I find it super fascinating to see how that landscape is changing. And I like to be a neutral observer. I am not on social media, but I enjoy seeing the data come through, and I'm curious, and then having opinions on it. But yeah,
that's one of the things we'll definitely get into in a moment. I have some from the desk, as it's called, from Own Your Labs. By the way, to pay our bills real quick.
Yeah.
Get your private blood testing through us. We're our only sponsor, Own Your Labs. But in particular, I wanted to, yes, this is the question I saw come out. That's an interesting one. So you've worked on impact campaigns tied to major films like Dark Waters and The First Wave.
Mm-hmm.
What's the secret sauce to training storytelling in entertainment through genuine movement or policy change?
Great question. My feeling is very much that every film is different, and every film requires a different approach and a thoughtfulness and awareness and an understanding. Like our work starts with deeply understanding the film, the subjects, the filmmakers, the people behind it, everybody involved. And we want to really kind of get in the heads of everybody so we can go, oh, you know what? This is what this is going to be well positioned to do. So like, for instance, a campaign like Dark Waters, which I worked with an incredible team at a company that no longer exists, but Participant Media. I worked with incredible people on that campaign, but that was my first film as an impact producer. And it was amazing. And we did so much policy work, and it was at the state level, at the federal level, at the international level, like the EU. It was crazy. And, I haven't come across a film yet since Dark Waters that I'm like, oh, I want to do policy work on this. Like, this is for policy. But it worked so well, and it was incredible to see. But like a lot of these other things, we're just seeing the landscape change, and it's understanding like the moment the film is coming out in, what do people need? And right now, more than ever, we need community and connection and like ability to engage with one another. And so that, to me, the secret sauce, I guess, to answer your question, is understanding the film and the story and the stories in it first and foremost, and centering that, not trying to like make it about a call to action or, kind of this watered down version of, sign a petition and blah, blah, blah. Impact used to be a lot like that. And now it feels completely different. And it might not always look completely different, but it feels very different from the inside.
Let's double click on that because in full disclosure, I am very proactive about trying to avoid partisan politics or anything along those lines. But we're going to kind of have to at least get into Dark Waters was, certainly has kind of a political positioning to it that's somewhat unavoidable.
Yeah.
But mainly just because a lot of times these topics can kind of end up falling into a little bit more of one camp or the other. But that said, I do think it's a good example of where we might want to make that distinction between what I was describing before, which was advertising, and what you were always pressing, hey, wait, don't call us advertising, it's impact, right?
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that part of what you might describe as being a relevant distinction is exactly what you just mentioned, that there's like, for example, policy work?
Yeah.
You don't normally think of that as being part of advertising.
Yeah.
You normally think of that as being something separate, something distinct and different.
Right.
Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to bifurcate your question and double click on the first thing that you said, because the partisan politics, it's very interesting. Every film that I've ever done, I would say, are about things that should not be partisan. Health, environmental health, public health, the right to live freely, like, things that just are fundamentally should be available to us. And it on every single campaign, I've had bipartisan initiatives. So when I have done policy work, the first wave included, we had folks on the right and the left working together to advance an issue. And same thing with Dark Waters, actually. We had folks on both sides who were, really committed to helping their community. And that was cool to see. And that's my sweet spot. Like, I always like hitting things that are, maybe seem certain coded some way, and then, oh, it's actually a lot more nuanced than that. And there's a lot more to it. And so we should definitely talk more about that. But to answer your question about like the advertising versus impact, I think that the biggest difference is the intention behind it. It's, okay, you want to get eyeballs on something, go the advertising route. That's fine. Impact and marketing go hand in hand. It's not an either or. It's not a like hybrid blend of the two. It's really like we can support each other in a lot of ways. And it's been a cool thing to kind of watch how that dynamic has changed too, between impact and marketing and advertising. But, it's really about the intention. So what do you want to happen? How do you want people to feel when they see this film, when, something hits, when they have conversations about this, and who needs to see it? And so it's just more intention involved, I think. And without the only intention being eyeballs, clicks, dollars, etc.
It's hard to differentiate that these days because of how much the clicks, the views in real time convert to profit.
Yeah.
There's getting back to the media landscape, this happened to us yesterday. We were all at lunch, and a family member had a very alarming thing that they sent to one of my family members who was with me at the time. And the alarming thing was somebody presenting a kind of newscast. But pretty quickly, those of us who were younger, who were together for lunch, we recognized it was AI.
Yeah.
And literally a talking head who was saying a lot of non-specific things, but at a heightened level of concern, and describing a world event that was occurring in real time. That really got my other family member who sent it to us super concerned, freaked out.
Right.
And so getting back to the issue of the valuation in journalism, I mean, the real concept of news itself is accuracy.
Yep.
But there's this interesting phrase that always sticks with me, which is what explained why in cable news there would often be a lot of opinion pieces and so forth, which is that opinion's cheap and facts are expensive. And so the irony is, with AI, I know this colloquialism is used a lot, slop, with AI getting much more sophisticated, it's easier to quite literally make things out of whole cloth that look quite authentic.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to battle.
Yeah, it is. We've talked a lot about AI in the film world, and obviously, like, our unions have been very scared, rightfully so, about how people are trying to automate things. And at the end of the day, what I come back to and what I still see everybody wanting is authenticity. And that's the one thing AI can't give us if it's trying to be something other than what it is. It is an incredible tool. Like I use ChatGPT all the time. Like it's great. But the authenticity behind it, like it's again about intention. What are you trying to do with it? If you're trying to deceive, it's effective, but it's not authentic. And to me, I don't know. I just think it's a moment where I'm like, whoa, but I also have this sense of confidence. I don't know if it's confidence. Maybe it's ignorance. But I would say like, I feel like my job is safer than ever because I'm like, it can't replicate what we're doing. It can't replicate like the kind of stories that actually compel. And like, the family member you're talking about, like that's scary for people. And, our generations, like younger folks will have a little bit of an easier time discerning things, but I still get scammed all the time. I'm like, wait, what? And like somebody sent me something the other day. It was like an AI image and it was of my new puppy on my horse, which, it freaked me out. I was like, please don't ever send me this ever again. I was like, I hate this so much. I don't know where this came from. It feels like so invasive and creepy. Like,
but it was literally both your animals.
Both my animals.
Yeah.
And it was a joke about my dog riding my horse.
But think about that. They can take 2 reference images from a photograph, hand it off to one of these models. It can construct something
crazy,
so photorealistic that it could invoke this emotional reaction to you. Right. So this is a new thing that a number of people are doing where they take old photographs from like for family and take it to, show grandpa.
Yeah.
And, an old photograph recreated. And they mean to do it tastefully.
Yeah.
But it is still all simulation, right?
All I can say is my grandpa would have hated that shit. He would have been like, what the? Nope. That would not have flown with my grampy. No.
But you talk about how you use ChatGPT every day. Literally, not hyperbole, literally 99 out of 100 people I know in my life are using AI every day. It was one of the fastest paradigm shifts I've ever observed.
Totally.
And for those of us in engineering, it's hard to even describe how radically it's changed everything.
I can't believe the adoption timeline.
Right.
Like, and I know it was kind of around, I was honestly trying to remember this morning. I was like, okay, pre-AI was like, I don't even, 2023, 2022? Like, I remember doing things, but I use AI very specifically. I don't use it to like generate a lot of stuff for me unless it's like internal documents and I'm just, fucking around. But I use it to check things that I've done and proofread and, make things better. I want it to ask me questions and then formulate things that I've put into it. But that's just how I use it personally. But I remember like when I got ChatGPT and was like, oh man, if I had this in college, I wouldn't have done anything.
Oh yeah.
Not a thing. And so I'm so grateful that it came out after that because I'm probably 20% more intelligent because I didn't
than
have
you would
that
have been if you'd had it.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have done shit. I would have just been
There's a meme I saw the other day where it had like in the top panel a student and he's looking kind of suspicious and he goes, student who's used ChatGPT to write his paper.
Yeah.
And then it's got the professor down below, professor who's used ChatGPT to grade his paper, right?
Oh, that's funny. That's
but
smart, though.
It's true. And to peel back the curtain a little bit, I'm absolutely aware that people are sending me documents all the time that at least are partially, if not fully generative.
Yeah.
And I myself am using AI to summarize them. So think about this, where you and I could say have a conversation that was like, I don't know, 5 sentences back and forth. Over email, you could make a generative deck that's like 18 slides. And you're like, this is great. It really captured what I was prompting it to do.
Yeah.
And I could be getting and be like, Claire, dang it. Hey, summarize this for me, Claude, into 5 sentences of conciseness, right? And then that's ultimately more of what I end up taking away anyway. Because here's the catch: a lot of what we want to say we're doing, such as, oh, I read the book.
Right.
I read the book last month.
Right.
You could say, well, so what happened on page 243?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go, oh, I don't know what happened on page 40. Can you tell me like what you're describing? And then you could describe some things. I'm gonna remember some parts of it.
Yeah.
Right. But how much do I viscerally remember a scene has more to do with how meaningful it was to me.
Right.
But I'm not doing that with literally everything I observe. And so I find it ironic because a lot of times people are, a bit more judgmental about these LLMs hallucinating. And I understand why. But at the same time, I want to keep saying, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
we as humans, we're kind of subject to a lot of these same rule sets.
Yeah.
And you have to recognize how much of these things are trained on us.
Yeah. Right.
So without question, and you probably heard this many times before from other people, but I'll say it for sure, we are at the beginning of the singularity.
Yeah.
We are at a new level of interconnectivity that we're just barely cracking the book open on. And a lot of it comes back to thinking of it in this way. How much are these large language models trained on us?
Interesting.
And then how much are we just reverberating a lot of that training as well?
Can you say more about the interconnectivity and what you mean by that specifically?
Yeah. So think about it. Okay. Think about everything that Einstein had ever written, had ever thought. Let's say all of his, diary entries, all of the letters he sent to other people, little tidbits that could be picked up. But just like I described this book that I might have read, from a month ago, I don't really know how to necessarily perfectly prioritize what I should remember and what I shouldn't. And so LLMs are often described in multiple ways, and there are there's lots of how these different companies make use of further structuring components to have greater utilization. But in a sense, they're actually a very high-powered word predictor. That's a lot of how they function. Right. And what's amazing about it is that there's a mesh of interconnectivity that I don't really know a good way of putting this. There's a friend of mine who's an AI expert who would put this a little bit better than I would.
Yeah.
But it's where it's utilizing what is more of that deeper concept of neural networks.
Yeah.
With regard to how it is that it can construct and present this back to us. Now, the thing that we all were wondering back in the day was whether there was going to be one company that jumps out in front and becomes kind of the big Google, if you will, of the land.
Right.
And then we're all kind of, please, could I have a piece of this, AI manna?
Right.
And it hasn't been that way.
Yeah.
We have a lot of major players that are not only competing with each other, but seem to even have a degree of specialization for what their models are good for versus ours.
Right.
But all of them are ultimately based on the training of everything we've ever produced as humans. And that's a very key thing. That's why the artists you're talking about in Hollywood could be upset, because they're saying, wait a sec, I can literally see the visual special effects that I made for, like, say, this character being reflected in this trained AI.
Yeah.
Even if it's not one-to-one identical.
Right.
It's close enough that I can see how that visual training had shown up and how it's shaped.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's hard to stop that, because that kind of has happened with us as humans. So my pushback as a technologist is, I mean, Advertising is a great example.
Yeah.
Design
Yeah.
concepts.
Yeah.
How much are we copying off each other's paper?
Yeah.
In that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery kind of way. Right.
It's so interesting to frame it that way and coming at it like, it's everything that we've given it. And I would say again, like, to me, the difference is emotion. And like, you can feel written words that somebody put a lot of effort into, and not even effort, but emotion and energy. And you can feel it differently. It feels different. It comes across in a character differently. But like, AI is so powerful because like my ChatGPT, I think honestly, I would rather have my entire camera roll leaked than have my ChatGPT history linked. People would be like, is she all right? Like, oh God.
Do you ever use the private?
No, there's a private.
Yeah. You can, in the upper right hand corner, you can see private. And it's almost like an incognito window for Google Chrome, right?
No, but I want it to know me, to remember
That's
me.
right.
Yeah, because I like it to reflect back everything.
Right.
But one of the things I asked it, I was like, would you like a name? And I was just like curious to see, because I was like, some of my friends have named their ChatGPT. And mine came back with, that's not what this is, Claire. And I was like, oh, okay. Great. I'm so happy for your honesty. I know it's so funny because some people have this chat algorithm or whatever it is that it makes them like, it regurgitates back and it's like a echo chamber for themselves.
Right.
Mine is like, that's super fucked up that you'd even say that to me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, man, okay. Yeah, it's honestly hysterical, but it is a reflection of me because that's exactly how I talk to myself. So it's such an incredible, powerful tool to be able to, it feels like a thought partner,
Correct.
And like a journal that can talk back.
It's what it's designed to be.
Exactly.
So the nature of what AI means to be from the company perspective, because I'll come back to this.
Yeah.
It's an important piece of this puzzle. How can I make an AI be the most successful?
Mm-hmm.
Well, beyond it serving its core functions that make it unique to being an AI, I also want you, the user, to be happy, right?
Yeah.
There is, however, other business needs, something that I've talked about in this podcast before, such as it could get itself into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
People are taking screenshots of it saying, this, let's say this bad previous government style was awesome.
Yeah.
Right. There needs to be top level directives to assert that won't be the case.
Right.
Now, where does that become important? It becomes important for things like health guidelines.
Yeah.
So there already are a number of times where I was on chat and I was like, what about this guideline?
Yeah.
And so let me pick on one. Saturated fat.
Mm-hmm.
Do I feel that the evidence supports that saturated fat is pathogenic, that it's killing us, right? And my short answer, without going deep into the weeds on it, no. I feel like the present day guidelines are not evidence-based to the degree with which they're pressing us to limit saturated fat. I don't feel like the evidence is strong enough there. Now, set aside whether that's my opinion or not. If I'm asking one of these LLMs, what I'm hoping for is that it's going to agree with me, not that saturated fat is fine, but just that the evidence isn't there enough.
Yeah.
But when I'm interrogating it on this, I can quickly determine that no, actually, it's caring about that business decision to not be quoted as saying saturated fat is fine on the upfront.
Yeah.
Right.
I just love how different our ChatGPTs are. I asked my ChatGPT to pull tarot cards for me.
That's great.
And then I was like, are you pulling what you think I want to hear? Or are these genuinely random things you're pulling?
And what did it say?
And it said, it kind of danced around it at first. And I was like, be honest. And it was like, okay. Like, using context clues, I pulled things that would be relevant, but it was still randomized in this way. And I was kind of like, yeah, bullshit. All right, fine. Because I was like, oh my God, this is so relevant. And then I was like, oh, I don't think that's random. Yeah, I don't think that's random. And it was not. So it makes sense. But, you know, it was still nice to hear. Like,
right.
And it was fine. Like, I
You're,
think
you and I are getting inundated with all of our interactions with AI, with that's a great idea.
yeah.
That's sharp.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. Those affirmations, we can be kind of casting it off like, yeah, but
yeah.
Do we hate reading it?
You know, honestly, though, I told mine a long time ago, like, not to be a yes man for me. I wanted, like, more of a mirror. And so it's not happy with me sometimes. It's like, you made a good point, but you're wrong. Like, okay, nice try. No. And I'm like, oh, but you tell other people that they're right. Could you tell me that I'm right? Yeah, so it's a funny, like, it's a funny dance to do with it because I want that, but it's very interesting. And I think as long as you're leveraging it in the way that it's probably meant to be leveraged, which is that it is a reflection of us and us collectively. But I think that's really cool from a connectedness standpoint because it is able to take in everything at once. And that's incredible. Like, to have that perspective of information that, like, you know, normally if you're having a conversation about, you know, health, you might miss a huge conversation about economics and resourced, you know, people and who has access to health. But chat understands the landscape of everything and brings it all in organically. Or maybe that's my algorithm, but
no, that's where I've got to kind of correct it a little bit.
Please.
It's it feels that way.
Oh, but it's not.
You've heard of tokens?
No.
Okay.
Like NFTs?
No. Like, when you're interacting with an LLM,
yeah,
there's token usage.
Okay.
And tokens are, again, I'm afraid of being imprecise, and my AI friends are going to make total fun of me when I'm talking about it. But let's just say it has a bit to do with getting a sense of how much context you wrap in.
Yeah.
In its thinking. It's almost like how much it can think about.
Yeah.
Again, imprecise in the way I'm saying it.
Interesting.
But guaranteed, there is never going to be an LLM for which you can leverage all of the information that you believe to be relevant without yourself having it.
Yeah.
And count on it being able to precisely prioritize it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you have to kind of you have to be mindful of the approach and probe it on investigating.
Okay.
The other thing that I would suggest strongly, because I do this quite a bit, is second and third opinions from other LLMs. I regularly pit them against each other all the time.
Interesting.
So if I'm having ChatGPT fill something out, I'm like, okay, this does look great, but I'll literally go over to Grok and I go, this is what ChatGPT gave me. Can you give me your thoughts on this? What do you think was correct? What do you think wasn't correct? And so forth. Some places where I really love using it is this for podcast descriptions and chapter. Yeah. Like, it's great for that. Yeah. I have a service that gets me a very detailed transcript. Right. The transcript will have you and I chatting. Yep. And I'm not going to do a better job than it did in where the chapter heads are. Right. But on top of that, it has all of this saved up context that I gave it as a document for the things I prioritize and care about myself. Mm-hmm. So it knows where I would likely want chapter breaks. And that context is small. That's a small amount of information.
That's huge. Right.
But by small, we're still talking, I don't know, that document may be like 6,000 words long. Jeez. For it, though, that's small. Right. But let's say that I'm going, hey, I want you to make a conclusion based on my lipid energy model and all of the research around lipids and cardiovascular disease. It'll make an attempt, but its attempt will be based on what level of access it has and what things it assembles that I don't have total access to myself. My hope when I ask a question like that is that it's at least going with the top most cited articles, but I don't know that. And it doesn't know that.
Right.
That's the other problem. Just like if you were to ask me about the book that I read a month ago, this gets us back to hallucinations, right? Is I could believe that I read something in there that it turns out that I didn't read. And there's some great science behind it. You know why that is. You know why memories are so fallible. When you're reaccessing them, you're actually rebuilding them.
Yeah.
There's some really
colored
interesting
by
new science. Yeah.
your experiences now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it can, and this is why eyewitness accounts can be very problematic potentially. And you throw in other things like genuine human trauma, how much all of that is relevant versus well, again, think about this. Not only are our own memories fallible, but then we have LLMs trained on what we put out as well.
Right.
That incorporates that potential fallibility.
Yeah.
So
very interesting. AI is not one of those things that I can have strong opinions on really anything, namely trivial issues, but I find it fascinating to hear like all of the things, because there's so much I don't know, and there's so much, and like I will always be the first to admit when I don't know something. I don't know. I mean, what did I think? The tokens were NFTs. I still think that in my head, Dave. No matter what you said, I was gonna think tokens are NFTs. So I kind of get it, but not really. But the way that I think about it too, I do think like even despite how little I know about it, I am leveraging it in the way that's right for me. Because for instance, like I find sentiment analyses very, very beneficial. And formerly, like when I did that, there was not a tool that I used. I mean, there's some like, research tools that grad students and like researchers will use to do sentiment analyses of like, Twitter feeds, whatever it is. But I actually got transcripts of all of these podcasts that I had listened to for another film, doing background research, and it was it's about a very specific topic. And I got all the transcripts, I put it into ChatGPT and was like, "Hey, can you look at this and tell me like how the sentiment has changed over the last 3 years, or like what the patterns are?" And it was so helpful, but I gave it its exact, data to pull from. And I wanted a very specific thing. I wasn't saying, tell me all the things about this thing. Like,
right.
You can't do that.
That's exactly the right use case.
It's very specific. So you're right. Like I take back what I said earlier in my understanding, because it's not interconnected. It's specific. It's like you have to give it the parameters and then it can operate. Right?
Yes. I mean, to be fair, to the degree with which it can leverage what's on the outside of the specific context you give it.
Yeah.
It will. And that's actually where a lot of the special sauce with regard to the various types of LLMs can be of high relevance.
Yeah.
But you gave it a compendium of data.
Yeah.
You said, I'd like you to examine it for this particular task.
Yeah.
I want a particular analysis for you to maintain, for you to keep in mind at the point that you process this. That's one of the best kind of scenarios that you could look for.
Interesting.
And it's an excellent one for storytelling. So this is why the push for authenticity in general is a tricky one, because to some degree what let's use ourselves for an example. Let's say that you're giving me a document that you want to be sure you communicate a concept of what you're asking of me as a client, and you just want to be sure that you state it well, that I'm going to understand what you're saying. And I don't know about you, I obsess about wording all the time.
Yeah.
But my prompting is getting much faster and more effective because of how forgiving the LLM is, and because of how well it's understanding what I'm reaching for.
Yeah.
That it helps me construct the kinds of words and sentences for things that I need to be very careful about better than I would.
Yeah.
Now, I'm reading something that I'm saying, I'm satisfied. That meets the criteria of what I set out to do. It even gave me some suggestions, knowing my context, as to what I would have wanted in there.
Yeah.
Thank you, LLM.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm now reaching out and communicating something that I feel is more me than what I started with. Right.
But to me, in that case, it is helping you with your authenticity because you're still driving it. You're in the driver's seat.
Right.
It's not some third party saying, put this out, tell this person's story. It's not help me tell my story. That is a different thing. That's like using it as an empowered tool, right? And again, a mirror, a living, talking journal. Not living. I recognize it's not alive, but kind of is. But you know, it's interactive with you. And that to me is still authenticity. It's not about, it's the written word. It only came from my brain and had no help. We've been getting help forever. Like talking to a friend, talking to ourselves out loud, journaling, like it's all very similar kind of channels, I would imagine, that are getting fulfilled by these kinds of conversations. But like,
well, take your use case.
Yeah.
Let's say that let's say you didn't have an AI and you just had somebody who you trusted to review for you.
Yeah.
And you said, can you tell me what the sentiment changes
are?
And then you communicate that back to the client. Are you less authentic because you had a person do it?
Right.
Than having the AI do it?
Right.
It's still information that you needed to assemble, and that was what you were tasked to do.
Right.
Right.
And to me, that's not even in that case, the AI, as long as I did it with intention and was participating, that to me is very authentic. Like passing it off to somebody else, it's not even really a matter of authenticity. It's just, okay, if work's being done. But like in the specific use case of storytelling, which you brought up, like that to me is so critical to have, that partnership, not outsourcing. It's not like, okay, give it away. Anybody can do this, or just have it like haphazardly. Because when I have had it haphazardly generate something, I'm like, oh my God, you did not understand that at all. No shit. Like, okay, that's not surprising and that's on me. But like when I have a conversation with it, it is so helpful. And that's like a game changer. But it does help me feel like I'm advancing my own capabilities. And that feels, I think, very, very empowering.
Yeah.
And authentic, certainly. Definitely.
It's in a roundabout way, I guess where I was going was the concept of the authenticity is almost like a red herring. It's not that we can stake a strong claim there so much as we're saying, look, getting back to the driving thing, I was just chatting with Travis before you got here, that there's certain tasks I would like for him to be doing for us, but that'll mainly be assembled for him with AI.
Yeah.
Like there's just a number of things with social media, with posts and so forth, where we want to get the word out on things that people will want to hear about.
Yeah.
Now, we're stretched thin. I can put somebody on it to burn a lot more labor to do things that I know AI can do anyway.
Yeah.
But I also don't want the AI to have complete control over our social media accounts.
Right.
So I actually still want a driver.
Yeah.
Where the AI is the bulk of the machine that's that's doing the work. It's got the cogs and the gears, and it's quite sophisticated.
Yeah.
But I do want human decision making
definitely.
Because my ability to still assess these larger strategic goals
Yeah.
or the people who I trust to know me well enough to make
Right.
these kinds of calls.
Right.
That's where I want it to be. And that's where I see us going.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's very important. And again, I think to my earlier point, like my job feels very safe, and it feels like not a I'm thinking about the scene in it's Willy Wonka or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I can't remember which one, where the dad is at the toothpaste factory and he is the guy who puts on the cap, and then they bring in an automated cap putter oner machine and he loses his job. So that's my that's basically what I think of when I think of artificial intelligence. But like, outsourcing and completely replacing. Like I don't think the right conversation to have is how can this replace everybody? Like it's how can it help us and make it more streamlined and better? And like I'm totally aware that jobs will be affected for sure, but like I don't know, it just feels like in the right conditions it'll make us better.
I think there's industry, I've watched industry change.
Yeah.
Okay. Both my parents are graphic artists, and I watched as desktop publishing came up.
Mm-hmm.
Again, so dating myself. I was a kid at the time, but as that was happening, printers were going out of business. I watched as the iPod was coming up.
Yeah.
And I myself would go to CD stores. Have you been to a CD store anytime recently? Out of business.
Record stores.
Right? Yeah, record
They
stores.
do have CDs now, but this is going to really make you feel old. Kids are collecting CDs like I collect records.
Yes.
Which is insane to me. That's
I
have a bunch they can have.
My sister collects DVD cases. She actually also has a whole bunch of VHS cases. But
VHS cases are fun.
We're radically different because she loves physical media.
Yeah.
Because there's just a little more of a tactile component to it. And I couldn't wait for everything to be all digital and to have digital libraries and digital everything.
Yeah.
It is interesting though, because I do miss, even with digital assets, owning them.
Interesting.
And that's been a major shift.
Yeah.
Is now, and back at the time that the iPod was around and you were buying songs for $1.
Yeah.
That felt good. And I had my library, owned my library.
Right.
And now you're going to rent your library.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay a subscription.
Yeah.
Just like with the streamers. You could, but the popularity has dropped way off.
Yeah.
And so now you're paying, service fee. And it's the same. And it's the same way with the tools I was using, going all the way back to digital advertising. Adobe, you would buy every new generation of its tools, but you bought it, you owned it.
Right. Right.
Now it's the cloud, and the only way you're going to get it is to rent it.
Right.
Effectively.
I've done so many free trials of Adobe. I probably should be arrested. I have like 9 different email addresses that I use because I'm like, I just need to edit this PDF. That's all I need to do. And I need to, but that's an aside. But yeah, it's interesting, like how we engage with media. Like, I think there are so many advantages, but I get like your sister wanting the tactile. Like, it's so crazy to think this little box contains the entire film. And like, I used to be obsessed with going through my parents' VHS and DVDs. I would sit there for hours and hours and hours and just read the backs and like visualize like, whoa, what could this movie be about? And, I watched a lot of them, but especially like the rated R ones, I was like, what could it be about? I'm not allowed to see it. I'm like 9. And, I remember like our Best in Show DVD, shout out to Catherine O'Hara. But I was like, I held on to that thing and read the log line and the synopsis, anything I could get my hands on about the cast. And I loved doing that. And then they had sometimes the little pamphlets in the DVD things. I wasn't as interested in those. I didn't want to have to open the thing. But I loved doing that. And now I realized my equivalent of that is my iTunes library of my purchased media that I've acquired since, the early 2000s. And like going back in there was like, whoa. It's like some of my old movies. It's honestly pretty great. It's like Princess Diaries and Tootsie, Dustin Hoffman. It's a real interesting collection of things, and like old songs.
Just even thinking back to the older movies, I had some, let's just say, younger generation folks with me recently, who I was talking about some movies from the 80s. They were saying so slow. I was like, what?
No.
And what I think it's coming around to is so often, like an opening would have a longer shot.
Yeah.
But a longer shot by today's generation is quite literally like 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Because the
that's so weird to think
average
about.
on the edits, I want to say, was in the 70s, it was like, I don't know, 2.5 seconds or 3 seconds or something. And it's now, it's just over a second, I want to say, something like that.
Wild. Yeah.
And it's crazy to think about how that seems to be where the demand is going.
Yeah.
And I want to be the old guy shaking his hand and going, you just don't know what it was like. But I myself find I have a tougher time watching movies than I used to. I used to love watching movies.
Yeah.
I would go to the theater during my heyday in the 90s.
Yeah.
And particularly when I was in film school. Did you know I was in film school?
Have you not told me that?
I guess I didn't tell you that.
What?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll put a pin in that for a second. But in the 90s, I would go to the theater.
Yeah.
At 2 to 3 times a week. Whatever new movies were coming out, I would go and I would watch it.
Yeah. You told me about that. You omitted the part about you being in film school.
We'll get into that in 1 second.
We better.
But if you had told me back then, there'll be a day in the future where you'll want to be on a device at the same time this movie is happening.
Yeah.
I would go, no. You kidding? I waited forever to watch the Schwarzenegger film and so on. And even if it was a bad movie, it's like, hey, I came here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see it through. It's very rare that I would walk out of a movie, but at times.
Did you?
Yeah, my dad had much less patience than I did as a kid.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure if I talked about these two things too extensively on the podcast, but at one time I was considering going into law, even though I had this acumen for engineering my whole life.
Yeah.
I was like, I kind of like some aspects of law. At the time, the show du jour was LA Law, which I kind of enjoyed, and that was a little bit of an influence. And I watched Court TV when Court TV came out, which is as dry as you can imagine.
That's insane. That's hysterical.
But it was fascinating to me.
I love that.
And then as I started learning more and more about, becoming a lawyer, even a trial lawyer, which is kind of what I was thinking, because there were some causes I was also interested in at the time. Yeah. It's like, actually, this just more and more just sounds like a paperwork life.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I would enjoy.
Yep.
But as much as my family was into movies, I kept thinking, man, I would love to get into film.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So this is the play-by-play. I think this is literally the first time I've talked about this on this podcast. It's 1998, and I'm gearing up to go to film school. And there's this film program. It's a joint CU Red Rocks film program in central Denver, I want to say. And I was excited. I was going to it. I was doing the classes, but there was this one commonality, which was that all the instructors there, not all of them, but I want to say maybe 2/3 of them, had gone to Hollywood or to some place where they tried to make it in film.
Right.
Didn't succeed and came back, and now we're just teaching it.
Interesting.
I don't recommend that, by the way. I don't recommend being in a class with
failed
yeah, I
Yeah.
I don't want to say it that way, but you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
there's an air
Yeah.
of it, right?
Yeah.
And there's like a little bit of a edge of cynical. Well, you know,
Yeah.
I'll teach you what I can.
Yeah. But you're not
Good
going to
luck.
make it. Yeah.
Now, during that same time, this is 98, 99.
Yeah.
Remember, I've been an engineer my whole life, and I'm working code. And at that time was this term called multimedia.
Yeah.
It's basically just a fancy way of saying beyond just film, you also have like programming that can be involved.
Yep.
And at the time, there was also this interesting phenomenon where the internet was too slow because it was just dial-up. But the capability of computers to show movies, like actual movies, was coming up. And so, oh gosh, if you could just like get people to see a movie and make it an advertising-like experience.
Right.
And that's when things like shaped CD-ROMs came into play. So if you had the little CD tray, you could have a CD that was cut in a certain way, like it could be like a logo or something.
Yeah.
And then it could fall into the tray, and as long as it held out to the edges, it could just play like a regular one. And then it's the spool on the inside that could still play.
Yeah.
Right. And
oh,
so I think I may
I
even still have
those.
somewhere in the house.
Oh, cool.
But you could program them so that when it got dropped in and it went into the computer, it would autoplay this interactive experience. You would have, you know, potentially a mix of media and video and a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to film school, and during the day, I'm getting these classes, and I'm like, yeah, I really want to get into film. But at the same time, I'm getting this sense that this is such a tough life going into film. And they weren't wrong. But I would take instructors aside, and I'd be like, truly, like, how does this actually happen? Because what it sounds to me like it's super
such
competitive out there.
I can see little Dave being like, level with me here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like I do with the chat. Right. And they would say there's basically three entry points.
Yeah.
Right. One is that you absolutely work your freaking butt off.
Yeah.
If you are trying to get at the executive level, you are likely starting as a PA, a production assistant. You are grabbing coffee, you're grabbing scripts, you're delivering stuff, whatever. If you're trying to make it as an actor, go to 1 million auditions.
Yeah.
If you just happen to get the right casting director, you just happen to be the right part, and an innumerable number of other variables.
Yeah.
You might just make it, but be aware.
Yep.
There are a huge number of people that are just, you know, they go there, they work their butt off, they have all the talent they had. It just didn't work.
It just didn't work.
Just because the supply far outweighs the demand there. Right.
Right.
So that's avenue one. Avenue two is that you know somebody.
Yeah.
It's who you know. It's really great if you were born into the family.
Right.
That already had room to help you.
Yeah.
Give you a helping hand through their networking. And then the third way is you put together the money. You put together the production. You get that all set up. Okay, so hold that thought. In the evenings, outside of film school, I find there's contract work galore for multimedia.
Right.
And I also have my fellow film student friends constantly going, why are you even doing this?
Yeah.
Why don't you just make oodles of money in this .com thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then just finance your own film.
Yeah.
And I was like, that
oh my God.
makes a lot of sense. All right. And so ultimately, I just got swallowed up in the business of doing that.
Yeah.
Right in time for the .com bust.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
But I was still making a lot of money. I was planning routes. I had in the back of my head, you know, even if I don't end up in this movie business and I just do well with engineering, maybe someday as a bucket list item, that's the funny part of this story. I'll get to do some feature length film. Yeah. Someday. Right.
Yep. Oh, I like the full circle.
Now I will say this. You could have gone back in time and said, so what movie do you think that would be? I wouldn't have said
Cholesterol.
Of course, a cholesterol documentary. That's the obvious direction I'm going in my life, right?
My life's calling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, look at also like your curiosity and the ways that you are driven by wanting to tell these stories. Like, this is such a perfect film, and it's a perfect entry point to talk about the bigger picture of metabolic health and how it impacts, you know, all of us in very different ways, and especially a select group of individuals, and then the barriers that others might have to trying that lifestyle and healing, you know, whatever it is that they're trying to heal from. And so
Let's
I think
jump into that. But to help on this segue,
yeah, please.
I only just found out that you went low carb.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I texted you on Sunday and said day 1 of keto, and within a couple hours I was having a bowl of cereal. And yeah, so that didn't last super long, but I am currently fasting, doing like a little 36-hour fast, which I've always enjoyed fasting. I just I kind of like it. It just feels right when it feels right. I can't force myself to do anything. If it doesn't feel right, like, I can't do it. But I took my ketone levels and I was at 1.8 millimole. Is that what it is? Millimole. And I was like, oh my God. Because yesterday I was at 0.1 and I was like, oh, damn it. I haven't eaten in like 16 hours. But I'm very excited. So
I was trying to remember. It's either millimoles or it's milligrams per deciliter, but it's
MMOL.
okay. So it's
That's
millimoles.
what it said.
Yeah. So it's BHB, beta hydroxybutyrate,
Mm-hmm.
and it's true. You're not going to have those levels unless you really are powered by fat.
Yeah.
And I would expect, even if you were not keto,
Yeah.
you fasting a day and a half, you're likely going to get there.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're metabolically healthy.
Yeah. Interesting.
So that's the key. Now, for what it's worth, there are a number of people who are not as metabolically healthy, and they're very disappointed when they're fasting.
Yeah.
And they don't get up to those levels as quickly.
Interesting.
But to be fair,
right,
they often tend to have other things they still need to work out.
Is that, and I'm sorry, your audience probably knows all the answers to these questions, but is that just because it's taking longer to get through your glycogen stores, or is that
it's
not an apt question?
No. This is good.
Yeah.
I want you to be who you are.
Great.
Let me give you the
Please.
Dave Claire,
the Feldman protocol,
exactly,
if you will.
The experience. So you hear the term metabolic health.
Mm-hmm.
You're working on a campaign that's promoting metabolic health. So metabolism is the balance between anabolism, which is the building up of stuff, and catabolism, which is the breaking down of stuff.
Yes.
And what's usually meant by metabolically healthy is this balance is showing up more in the fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So we as humans, as you know from the movie, we're on a hybrid fuel system.
Right.
And so what does that mean? Well, it means that we can judge how healthy we are by how good or not good we are at pulling fuel out and putting it away again.
Mm-hmm.
So when you eat something, how successful is your body at taking the fuel you brought into circulation and then putting it away? Right.
Yeah.
And then when you're fasting, how good is your body at getting that fuel back out?
Yeah.
Right. So glycogen stores is one area. That's glucose.
Yeah.
You've seen from our movie that we talk about the liver a lot. Mm-hmm. That's one place where glucose is stored, is glycogen.
Right.
Fat cells is the place where fat's usually stored.
Mm-hmm.
But in people who are metabolically unhealthy, both fuels, both fat and glucose, are at higher levels.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they at higher levels? Well, because the body is not doing that great of a job at putting it away.
Either source.
Right.
Got it.
So
that makes sense.
Why would somebody who's less metabolically healthy not as easily get up to higher BHB? Well, for one, they may still have a lot of fuel
Mm-hmm.
in their bloodstream
Yeah.
because it just takes a lot longer to
Yeah.
move it.
Yeah. Interesting.
And in people who are less metabolically healthy, unfortunately, you have things like fat
Yeah.
that has to go somewhere
Yeah.
because your circulation, it's scarce space.
Yeah.
There's not an option for the body to just leave it and
Right.
build up until it's eventually clogging things.
Yeah.
So what happens is because there's no space left in your fat cells,
Mm-hmm.
or at least it's harder and harder to fill them. They're like a balloon that's
Yeah.
getting like maxed out.
Yeah.
It has to store it in tissues that are not designed to
Yeah.
store fat. And that's where you hear this term ectopic fat.
Mm.
So you've heard of a fatty liver.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fatty pancreas.
Yep.
There's even fat on the heart.
Oh.
Yeah, it's peri something
Yeah.
fat.
Mm.
And so in these cases, when there's fat buildup in these other organs, that's
Yeah.
a dark sign.
Yeah.
That means that the body's really having a tough time. It also makes it harder later when they're getting metabolically healthy to get it back out.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for that explainer.
yeah.
Because I did know the catabolic and anabolic systems and how we look at those and having them be in balance, but I can't say that I fully understood what that means. But honestly, what you're saying makes me want to double down on my point of like helping people understand what being metabolically healthy means. And it's not always about weight, right? There's obviously correlation, of course, and I'm sure you could argue causation in a lot of cases, but like I find it very interesting because like I'm not trying to lose weight, but I'm trying to see what therapeutic ketosis does for me mentally. And like I'm very aware that our metabolism, how we use things, affects every part of us, and especially our brain. And when your brain's not able to get through things in an efficient and a good way, that you're not burning too much, you're not burning too little, it takes a toll on the person. And I am so curious about that. So therapeutic ketosis is what I'm very interested in, but I love carbs and I love sometimes ultra processed foods. I love Special K. I love those things.
I love pizza, for
Yeah.
example. Fortunately, I like thin crust pizza more than
Yeah.
pan pizza for
Yeah.
whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
If you can metabolize carbs well,
Yeah.
then
You're fine.
what's the problem?
Yeah.
Right. So I have low carb friends
Yeah.
who know, and I've talked about it many times on this podcast, that I'm certainly of the mind that if somebody is able to metabolize their carbs well,
Mm-hmm.
and they are otherwise generally eating healthier, I'm going to have a tough time believing they're going to get in a bad way.
Yeah.
But part of it is a lot of those folks, especially if they're consuming a lot of carbs,
Yeah.
usually it's because they also have an athletic lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. I'm missing that component.
yeah. So I think there's two components that I would say to someone like yourself.
Yeah.
Component number one is that, and I don't know the full physiology around it, but there really is a phenomenon that I embrace called this second puberty. So
Yeah.
oftentimes as people are getting into late 20s,
Yeah.
there's a shift.
Interesting.
Where often that's when you see them past that point in their 30s kind of fill out a bit more. They don't, whatever they're eating seems to affect their body composition more. I myself was a rail up until 27, 28, something like that.
It's the opposite with my family.
Hmm.
That's like my mom and I both had more weight in like early 20s, and then by late 20s, early 30s, like
Interesting.
lost the baby fat, it feels like, which is so interesting. But okay, this is very helpful because I'm also thinking about, for a while, I was kind of doing low carb through most of the day. And I did like the 16-8 intermittent fasting that just worked really well for me. And I liked having to not think about 3 meals a day and just do like 2 meals and snack and whatever.
It's usually what I do.
That's pretty much what I do too. But I realized like I need to eat a little earlier. So like I like to eat around 10 usually is when I get hungry. And then I'll have dinner at like 6-ish. But I would, for a while, I was leaning away from like carbs in the earlier part of the day and doing more carb heavy at night. And for my energy, I noticed that was pretty effective. It was like, oh, okay, I'm liking this. But then I'm like craving carbs at the end of the day. And I felt great when I woke up the next morning. Like it was really interesting. So I know that's been kind of a thing too. I don't know if I would have ever been like low carb because it's under 100 grams.
Yeah.
I was talking to your lovely wife earlier and she said 100 grams. So
yeah, usually that's usually kind of the range.
Yeah.
Not keto, but still low carb.
Right.
But part of the reason I identify that sort of phase in life is I find that a lot of people who are younger go, I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah.
I eat stupid amounts of carbs,
Yeah.
etc. And if they're not as athletic, if they're not burning it away, this is why you want to keep an eye on things like triglycerides.
Mm-hmm.
Is triglycerides can rise substantially when you're consuming a lot of carbs and your body's still pretty good about converting those carbs to fats to then store.
Yeah.
But again, if your triglycerides are high, that's fuel backing up potentially if it's a fully fasted test.
Mm-hmm.
So coming back to these two components that I think somebody who's on a higher carb diet can work with, even if, say, their family has a predisposition towards diabetes, is if they're later in life where it's counting a bit more, they are athletic. They're burning it out, right? So if your fun fact to know and tell, your liver contains the capacity for what is basically about 100 grams of glycogen, which is close to equivalent to what carbohydrates would be. So think 400 calories.
Okay.
Literally
Interesting.
just 400 calories that's in your liver altogether.
Yeah.
And incidentally, you will not likely run entirely out of it anyway.
Yeah.
But if there was an explosion outside and adrenaline hit us both and we're like, oh my gosh, I got to run. There's a burst of release from our liver of those glycogen stores to get the glucose going quickly.
Interesting.
But we also have storage in our muscles.
Okay, I have a really stupid question.
Oh, good.
I was about to start cracking up when you were talking because I realized my brain heard one thing and then it was interpreted differently. When you say like our liver contains 400 calories, I'm thinking like if you cooked it and served it, it would be 400 calories.
No, I'll be more specific.
Yeah.
I'll say
it's disgusting. I'm not a cannibal, just for
400 calories effectively average for glycogen stores.
Okay.
So the liver itself altogether, if you were to cook it and eat it, it'd be more calories than that,
okay.
Especially if it had glycogen in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Good. Great. I'm so happy to know that. Thank you. That was
But if you
glad I clarified.
If you add that to your skeletal muscle, which also has glycogen stores, that's all the glycogen stores.
Yeah.
You're talking around 1,500 to 2,000 calories total.
Interesting.
Like in all of your muscle and your liver.
Wow.
Conversely, even for somebody really lean, you have almost, I want to say, 500 times that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have, probably you right now have, I want to say at least 100,000 calories of fuel stored as fat in your subcutaneous fat stores.
I'm never not going to think that it's just if you chopped me up and ate me, I would be 100,000 calories.
So you head straight towards the cannibal direction. It's like, recipe for
Oh my
Human
God.
remains.
Yeah, well, this is a weird segue, but I was going to say it earlier and now I have to say it. But what I love that was always super important to both of us, and I know to you, is that it was never about getting people over to a keto diet. Like,
Right.
this is what we want to do with this film. It was never about that. It was about like exploring the thing and being like, let's ask questions. Let's figure this out. Let's get people more educated. And for those who want this lifestyle and who have this lifestyle, we want to help remove a barrier and explain and help them engage a little bit more deeply. And the segue there was, no judgment if you're a carnivore, if you're a cannibal, if you're, vegetarian, great. But like, I do a little judgment if you're a cannibal. That's not right. But
I mean, yeah, I can't say that there isn't some amount of judging, but if you just work in a place where it can be obtained in a legal fashion and nobody gets hurt, I just don't want to know about it.
Nobody gets hurt.
I'm just saying, if it was like already there, and that's different, right? But
good.
The first podcast where I got to talk at length about cannibalism. I'm enjoying it.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
No, this is one thing that I do want to say I absolutely love about our film. Documentaries in general, and I was talking about this with Jen long before you and I met. Literally one of the first conversations is what I don't love about documentaries is oftentimes, and I hate to compare it back to the past, but it doesn't feel like news. It feels like there's a particular position that the filmmakers have. And sometimes it really goes over the top of seeming like, hey, the thing that we're advocating in this is correct.
Yeah.
Full stop. We're not going to show.
This is the point of view to have.
Yeah, this is the point of view to have. Everybody should be on this given diet, right? For example, it's only good for everybody. We're not going to show anything that looks bad, or for that matter, that anybody could have a different opinion about.
Mm-hmm.
And no, what I love is literally one of the first things that I say in it is that, this isn't to say that the keto diet isn't a panacea.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. It's certainly not for every condition, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love that made it into the edit right out, very early in.
Yeah.
Because not only is that how I genuinely feel, but it's also a scientific position
definitely
for us to have.
Right.
I love how pro-science our documentary is.
I could sit here and name a lot of docs that are like, you need to have this diet, and if you don't, you're probably dead. Like,
or that this is the reason the whole society is in trouble.
Right, is because of this.
Right.
That's it.
And I've said on this podcast so many times, I'll say it again. I do think 80% of what's wrong with the diet everyone's on is the diet everyone's on.
Yeah.
It's a standard American
totally
diet.
agree.
So you could take the top.
But there's nuance. There's so much nuance to that, right? Like, I mean, from a food system standpoint, so much nuance. Like, you can break down chemicals, additives, sourcing. Like,
weren't you on Food Inc?
Food Inc. too. Yes.
Oh, gotcha.
I was the early impact producer on Food Inc. too.
Gotcha.
And if you think the operating plan that I made for you, which was 80 slides, insane. If you think that was bad, I made a 40-page retrospective on everything that had happened in the United States food system from 2011, 2012, right after the first film came out, to when we were making the second one. And it was a long read. I don't think anyone actually read it end to end.
When did that drop? When did it come out?
So the film, I only worked on it through 2022. I believe it was released in 2023.
Wow, this is really recent.
2024 maybe. Yeah, it is recent. And I kind of saw this whole story unfolding of like, oh my God, it's fascinating, because Food Inc. 1, the first doc, really exposed the industrialization of our food system in a way that no one had ever done before. I mean, Robbie Kenner, the filmmaker, had this access that people just didn't see. And it was, you could say like, oh, it's kind of a shock and awe thing, but that is what happens. Like industrialized farming and our system, like that's what's happened. And it's a very detached, very industrialized, like standardized, weird thing that has happened, and we're not eating like we normally are. And I think it's and I was actually talking with my co-founder, Lisa, about this. I don't think it's any shock to any one of us who's aware that illness, and particularly mental illness, has gone up so drastically in the last, 40 years alone. But it's funny to me because people are like trying to blame cultural things, like, oh, it's just, people being more sensitive now. Like, this is metabolic dysfunction and a lot of other dysfunction caused by how we eat now. It's so different. And so, again, it's not that there's one way to do it. That's really dumb to think of it like that. But
but there's a way to not
do it. I would agree with that.
Like
wholeheartedly.
and
it's the way that we're doing it now.
I am such a vocal opponent to the standard American diet.
Right.
To the extent to where, like I said, this is the distinction that I make all the time, which is that how we get to a state of being diabetic has a lot to discuss. There's a lot of case to be made. Once you are diabetic, I think that there's a case to be made in particular for low carb for that problem, right? However, separate from that, is the food that we're eating right now less healthy than, say, what we were eating 50 years ago? I think almost everybody would agree.
Right.
Of course, it was. And the food of 50 years ago was relatively less regulated,
right,
by comparison,
right?
Which you might think, oh, well, if it's less regulated, then there must be like more problems in the food supply and so forth.
It's just gotten more convoluted.
Exactly what the standardization is of the things you're describing. And this is, by the way, something that I've thought about a lot. Was I feel like there could be a lot of overlap for where people are making the case for plant-based diets, and people making the case for low-carb diets on things like factory farming, because I don't know anybody who's just a rabid supporter of the worst of what we've seen. Right.
Cruelty and unhealth. I mean, like antibiotics, like everything that goes into that.
And there's a market for antibiotic free range, free.
And that's become gimmicky in it.
I know, and that's
itself.
that's just like keto.
I know.
Just like keto.
Yeah, right.
Now there's all these packaged keto foods that are not really that keto.
Right.
And it's frustrating because kind of go full loop back to just advertising and truth.
Right.
I want to support humane as realistic humane treatment of animals and how they're raised and so forth as I can realistically, right? As a consumer. So only like so far I can take it. I can say for a lot of people, if they take the time to locally source, that's usually one of the best ways.
Right.
So
absolutely.
The ranch right down the road from you or whatever at the town over. Those are usually some of the best sources of food that you can look for.
Absolutely.
Or if you can do it yourself. I'm kind of jealous of people who have like their own chickens.
Yeah, I know.
Because those eggs are amazing.
Oh, they're so good. I have friends who are vegan and they have chickens. They have a sanctuary for farm animals, and my business partner and I are actually helping them with a couple things. They're amazing. But I get to go over and get their eggs because they don't eat them. So I'm like, this is perfect. It's great. It's so good. But I love that, I love that like now we can have more of these conversations and be a little bit more holistic because, obviously, and again, there are so many facets to food. Like I can look at anything through the lens of food and be able to better understand it, like economics, race, gender, like healthcare, really anything, poverty, like just the state of things. And you see how food connects to it and our food ways connect to it. And you're like, whoa, that's actually like a huge thing, because the people who have the most or are the most predisposed to health problems are the folks who do not have access to better foods and can't, and there's no pathway for that right now. So it's a fascinating thing to be like, okay, like let's look at this from a bird's eye view and see all the different ways that this is getting fucked up. But from my perspective, the thing that has driven me the craziest in the conversations of like, you have to be plant-based. Like I was vegetarian for a long time. I recently started eating meat and seafood again, but I was always a dairy girl. I love dairy. But, for me, it was a personal decision and it felt right at the time. And I have no regrets about that. But like and then it just stopped feeling as right. So I've, introduced things. I live in like an agricultural area. We have tons of ranches and farms, and I live in California, so it's year round amazing. And, that's great for me. But
can I ask you about it not feeling as right anymore? Was it literally something where you just weren't feeling as good on a plant-based diet?
I just kept wanting meat.
Right.
And that had not happened in 6 years. I had not had any cravings, and I was like, interesting.
This is a very common story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This happened to Max Spurlock's wife, who's a very famous vegan chef.
Yeah.
And it was, I want to say, after like 20 something years.
Yeah.
And she was, and hopefully I'm describing what she was describing, but I believe what it was is she was with a friend.
Yeah.
Who was having a steak across from her, and she could not understand or explain it.
Yeah.
She really just wanted to eat that
Right.
steak. And again, this is 2 decades.
Yeah.
And being famous for being a vegan.
It was filet for me too.
Yeah. And I tried to design an experiment during my days of more N of one, having more bandwidth.
Yeah.
Where I was trying to be whole foods plant-based. And the thing that I kept running into wasn't actually, it wasn't the vitamin complement so much as it was the amino acids.
Yeah.
So
sure.
To get a little geeky for a second, the proteins we make are different than the proteins the plant kingdom makes.
Yeah.
They use a lot of the same amino acids, but they use them at different proportions than we do. So when you're consuming an animal, the proportion of amino acid usage, things like leucine, are closer to our own requirements.
Right.
Therefore, as I remember when I was doing the research, a 9-ounce steak has you totally covered.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Yeah.
The 9 ounces of the steak, you have it all.
Yeah.
But the catch is that in our bodies, we don't have a storage reservoir for amino acids.
Yeah.
For proteins in general. So we have fuel stores, fat, glucose. We don't actually have amino acid stores or protein stores. There's not a place in the body where it's keeping a reserve. And so I think it starts to pick up an insufficiency of one or more existing amino acids.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like difficult to meet on a plant-based diet unless you're doing a lot of like, protein shakes, things like that.
And I won't take supplements. I just won't do it.
Okay.
Which is a problem. I take carnitine. I just love it. It's kind of like citrusy. I don't know why. But like I woke up one day and was like, oh, I think I just like had it once and have taken it every day since. That is the only thing I reliably take. I am so deficient on B vitamins. It's like not
you cannot be plant-based and not supplement.
Right. Exactly. And so I think that's probably what it was. But I was like, the amino acid thing, I think that's a huge part of
I
it
think so.
For sure. And, and to be honest, like I haven't noticed a huge difference in like, oh my God, I feel completely different. Not really. Like I feel good, but I felt pretty good before. And it's very interesting. So, you know, I just kind of love the flexibility and not being like, oh, I have to be this way forever. Like, I have to do that. There's no have to. It was like what felt right for me, you know?
Yeah. Well, I do feel better on a
Yeah.
predominantly animal-based diet.
Yeah.
But for what it's worth, I genuinely I wish that there was more that I could do to be supportive of just better, raised animals in general.
You know, it's something that I'm very passionate about and have always been. And there's a long way between sticking our heads in the sand and being like, you know, oh, none of this exists. It's just all fine. And well, they're going to die anyways. Like, to actual, like, thinking about stewardship and, okay,
Right.
how do we like raise animals for slaughter and how do we do it respectfully? And like, for me, I think there's so much wisdom to be gained in just traditional knowledge holders and how they moved through the world and, you know, consumed animals and plants and what that looked like and how they went about it, ensuring population control. You know, that's why I think, like, I know my friends in my area who are hunters are the most responsible stewards ever. Now, there are some hunters who suck and who kill 40 ducks and put it in their truck and take a picture and are like, fuck yeah, and then don't eat anything, like crazy. But when you are actually in tune with the land and the animals and you have that respect, like, you know, if there's a fish that gets caught on our boat, like, everybody puts their hands on the fish and thanks it. Like, you know, there's a lot more there that, like, we can just engage more thoughtfully. And again, it doesn't have to look different. It just should feel different. Like, thinking about not the separation of like humans versus animals. We're animals. We are animals. Like, I think that's so important. But I hate that, like, some of these plant-based documentaries, I will not name names, really it was like, this is the only way, period, end of story. Like, this is it. And we didn't even get into all the evils of, like, okay, what has the corn industry done? And what has, like, just the sugar industry beyond the corn industry? Like, all of that is so messed up. And, like, the systematized dependence that people have gotten on sugar, that's not by accident. That's not like a happy accident. That was like a door-to-door campaign. And in a lot of the global south too, that's very evil in my opinion. And look, like, it's just the same thing packaged differently. And of course there's a lot of suffering from the labor, from the animals. Like, it's just broken. And it feels like it's gotten way too big and way too profit centric. And like, and then it's like this red herring of like, well, we need more regulations. We need less regulations. Are you kidding? And it's like, that's not what? Like, that's not even the conversation we should be having. Like, it's like, how can you do better for your community? And how can you support that? And like, I always just think of, like, you know, subsistence farming. Like, what a nice thing to go back to.
There's and another full disclosure, the Bazookies are backing our film. They're also a part of another film. I think it's called Common Ground, which gets into regenerative agriculture. Couldn't be more in favor of that.
Absolutely.
Because this gets back to this whole monocropping issue.
Right.
We're just actively destroying our own land.
Right.
And there's no point in it.
Right.
There is, but getting back to the point that you were making earlier, because it is true, virtually every hunter that I know, even from, states that you might not think would be as mindful of animals, they actually seem to be the most in tune.
Mm-hmm.
They are very aware of the behavior of the animals.
Yep.
And I remember I saw this in a podcast with Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Rogan was describing this because he likes to hunt with a bow.
Yeah.
I'm like,
You
that's
have to
legit.
be really good to do that.
I give you credit for that one. But he was describing to another guest how he would feel like anxiety
Yeah.
about possibly nicking the animal or
Right.
something and injuring it, and then it gets away, but it's hurt.
Right.
And then it's like going on and suffering.
That should be every hunter's worst nightmare.
Exactly. You should care that
Yes.
much about, because there's one time from, gosh, I want to say I was a 17-year-old driving my Mustang, and I swerved and hit a bunny rabbit,
Oh.
and I could tell it got hit,
Yeah.
and I saw in my rearview mirror it was just kind of like limping away.
Oh.
That still haunts me to this day.
Yeah.
I was like a kid then.
Yeah.
It still haunts me.
Yeah.
Knowing that
Yeah.
that's just what it had to suffer through
Right.
for however long.
Right. And it's interesting, like, when you're actually involved. Like, so my thing was, I didn't want to start eating meat again until I felt like I could take the life of an animal and do it myself. And again, that's not being prescriptive. That's what I felt like was right for me. And I harvested a scallop with my buddy Richard. That was the only thing I've done. And I'm still not entirely confident that I could stand there and do it. But I'm more comfortable, and I would be comfortable my buddy doing it for sure. Like, you know, knowing that that animal did not suffer a day in their life and it was quicker. But like actually being there and seeing it, it's a different thing. And we are so far removed from it that like that haunts you to this day. But like the suffering that we've all participated in, like just eating meat in, you know, our industrialized nation, like it kept me up at night for a long time. But like there are other times where I just didn't even think about it and couldn't. And that's not the fault of the individual at all. It's by design that we don't have to think about it. And it's by design that kids don't know where their food comes from. And it's a really, I think it's just such a disservice to all of us to have this like detachment from everything. And it's again, like, that's not, I don't fault the individual there at all. I fault the people that are trying to keep us detached. And it's not people, it's institutions. But like, connect us. Let's see. Let's be part of it. Like, that's a very natural thing to take a life and, you know, use every part of the animal and have that be respectful. Like, a lot of my friends get one deer or one, you know, cow or however they do it, you know, pigs, whatever, and they keep that in their freezer.
Yeah.
And they have food for a very long time, depending on their family size. And to me, that's like, what a great way to think about it. And again, not everybody has access to that, and not everybody knows even where to start with that. But I think it's so, I would rather these conversations be had more colloquially and easily rather than this shame-based, like, oh, you still eat meat. That's so crazy. That's fucked up. Like, let's dig in. Let's dig in a little bit more. Like, I think there's more to it than that. And I want to encourage people to not throw shame and blame around on each other and just have the conversation and like think about it.
I want to kind of interject something that's kind of fun about working with you.
Yeah.
So we end up in a lot of meetings that are, of course, Zoom calls where there's just a whole bunch of windows of a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
And often there'll be the Claire window where you are outside and your horse might be nearby, and you're giving some, you know, strategy summary, and you go, oh, sorry. What's the name of your horses again?
Tucker and Pantera.
And Tucker's usually the one that's sort of near you at the
Yeah.
time. But you actually do walk the talk of what you're describing right now. You try to remain somewhat connected to the nature of the place that you're in.
Yeah.
Right. Because you have some acreage around you.
Yeah.
Right?
I have, so my horses are either at a barn and they have a pasture to themselves, or they're with me at my house and I have about an acre where I rent, and it's amazing. But they, Yeah, those two characters. Pantera threw my computer the other day while I was on a call. She picked it up from the top and chucked it. Honestly,
Whoa.
shout out to my MacBook Pro. It's alive. It's fine. And
I think there might have been a little message there from your horse to you.
I think she could not have been clearer. She earlier in this, well, it was actually last year. I saw her see my phone out of the corner of her eye, and she walked over to it and then looked at me and slammed her foot down on it and shattered my phone. And it was my fault for leaving it on the ground, but I didn't think she would go over to it and step on it. So yeah, she's not a fan of mom on the technology. She would rather go back to no screens.
I have a funny animal story to share.
Yeah.
I myself have not normally kept pets. There's one pet when I was a kid. It was a cat named Jack. It's a good cat, but that was pretty much my only pet.
Yeah.
A lifetime ago, I had a girlfriend who had a son, and he really wanted to have a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all living together, trying to see if we can make it work. And I was like, all right, we'll get a little dog. So we got a German Shepherd, a miniature German Shepherd. I want to say. No, sorry. Miniature
Australian Shepherd?
Australian Shepherd,
yeah.
that's what it is. And it's a puppy, so had to get potty trained.
Yep.
And it was his job to be sure that it got potty trained. And so what he was supposed to do is when it was yelping in the night was to take him back to the backyard.
Yeah.
Let him do his business and then come back in. But occasionally, this is a little boy, he would occasionally be like, I'm just going to go back to bed. And he'd go back to bed, leave the dog out there.
Oh, God.
Well, this was in Colorado. So this was during the fall where it was a little bit warmer, but it was starting to get colder and snowier. And so for the few times where he'd leave him out there, the dog would then be yelping from the outside.
Yeah.
And I would be a bit upset about it. So I'd be like, hey, you wanted to have a puppy. You need to man up on all the responsibilities. Right. And so one of these times our toilet wasn't working. Yeah. And so the backyard being one place where a guy like me could go, was secluded, it's private. No fears there. Nothing illegal. I get up, I go out, and there's this like tent that we had that was in the back. That was sort of a temporary storage space. Yeah. And I'm, and suddenly the puppy appeared and looked up at me. And the thing was, by that point in time, even though I wasn't really a dog person, we'd had like a very good relationship. Yeah. Where it was almost like the dog seemed to bond with me better than anybody else in the household. Yeah. And I could swear the look in his eyes said the whole thing all at the same time. It's like, how could you let this happen to me? And I like look back almost like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I'm going to talk to him. This is not going to happen again. Yeah. It was bizarre. It was the most, because I normally don't get this level of assumption of there being a relatability on a human level with another animal. But I'm telling you, in that moment, I felt that look. Yeah. I just felt it. Yeah. They communicate. If you can listen, you will hear it. Like, it's amazing. I think it's so beautiful. And again, to me, it's not far-fetched at all. Like, I know you're a data guy and a science guy, but I still kind of laugh at like, some of the science that's happening around like animals have consciousness. That's so crazy. I'm like, well, yeah, they have emotions and like, yeah, they all have different personalities. Like, okay, I still sometimes people will ask me, do your horses remember you? Like, no, actually, they think I'm a new person every time. And somebody just pays their bills and comes in every day and sits on their ground. And like, yeah, okay. I think, again, like, I don't know. I think we've had such a disservice done wherein we have this like view that we are separate from nature. And we're not. We are nature. We are of nature. We are nature. Like, there's nothing different
about how we were put together on a cellular level than everybody else. Like, you know, what is it that us and chimpanzees have like 99% of the same DNA? Like, it's just a little different. And to me, it's not even about like the genetic similarities. It's about like, oh, we're alive. Like, we're all alive, and we have this shared connectedness, and it's all energy. I don't know. It doesn't seem crazy to me at all. And I'm sure that dog was telling you that.
It felt that way.
Yeah.
Sad ending. Unfortunately, it died in 7 months.
Oh.
It had a rare brain disease, which I guess is
That's
common
awful.
with the breed
Really?
to some degree.
Oh, that sucks.
But that said, it was an experience I'll never forget.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, this also sort of leads me into like just sort of the broader thinking of this interconnectedness. Again, you're aware that the horses don't understand certain things in a way that you wouldn't understand them.
Yeah.
But you still feel connected.
Mm-hmm.
You have this deep, and that's why I often bring up how much we value other people as well as other animals have a lot to do with that bonding.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as we might think in utilitarian terms, like a human life is worth more than an animal life.
Right.
I would say, I don't know. I have a lot of friends who are dog owners who they would not value my life more than their dog. And that's not me dissing them. It's me recognizing how we operate.
Yes.
Right? Like, we operate under familiarity and familial connection to an extent.
Yeah.
But it's impressive.
Right.
How much that, gets reordered.
Right.
Depending on what comes into our life.
I think that's such an interesting point. And I am also not somebody who holds hierarchy of species near and dear. Like, I just kind of think we're all here. I think it's weird to eat your own species. I know that happens for others, but for humans, that doesn't really happen or shouldn't really happen. That would feel weird to me. I'm probably pretty anti-cannibalism. But just to be clear, to close that loop from earlier.
I was thinking we didn't cover it.
Yeah, I know. I think we need a second episode, you and me just unpacking it a little bit more. But I have an issue with people who have this hierarchy with animals that it's like, you would kill a dog? There are people who eat like dogs or cats? That's fucked up. And then they have no issue eating cows and pigs, who are like, pigs especially are just as socially and emotionally intelligent as dogs, if not more so on a, purely genetic standpoint. Like,
but see, this is kind of like my broader philosophy, which is animal husbandry in general.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with death.
Yeah.
The suffering is where
Same.
We're all running into each other, right? So if there was I had a great conversation with a friend who is plant-based from like a while ago. And I said, if you want to enter this discussion with me, just be aware, we probably are more alike than you think. And then in some ways we're very different. Mm-hmm. And I can get right to it, which is the distinction between suffering and death. Yeah. Because right this moment in time, if my lights went out, like right now, let's say I have an aneurysm, I die right here, right? I'd feel bad knowing it in this hypothetical that you guys would have to suffer, etc. But I would hope you would know, because I'm telling you right now, I lived a solid life that I'm happy with, and I'm good. It wouldn't, I will have left, so I don't have to think about it that much. I really don't want to have an aneurysm where I'm just like in debilitating pain for the next 5 days, and I'm hooked up to machines and I'm intubated, and
your family's getting their hopes up and then to be crashed and so much. And
And I
I'm
really
with you.
genuinely stress, and I've chatted with my sister about this several times over, I genuinely stress about my ending up in a situation where they have to face those kinds of
Yeah.
choices
Yeah.
where they know that my cognition, for example, is severely compromised.
Yeah.
But often it's not that cut and dry. Sometimes it's like, well, he might be okay, he might not be okay,
Yeah.
things like that. But throw into that just suffering,
Yeah.
straight up pain and suffering, and reduced cognition to where I actually don't even fully understand myself what's going on. But they can see I'm in pain.
Yeah.
I am in pain, right? But I'm not dead.
Yeah.
Now, that
Yeah.
is the other end of the spectrum. I don't love that.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want that for anything.
Yeah.
For not
For
just
anyone.
humans, for any
Right.
creature, for whatever.
Absolutely.
Right?
I agree.
So I find a lot of people agree with me on making that distinction.
Yeah.
If we raise animals to slaughter them, but they have a wonderful life,
Yeah.
even if it's not a long life,
Right.
right?
But it's happy, healthy,
yeah,
and as natural as it can be
Right.
to their species, which, like, cows were never supposed to be a real thing in the way that they are now. We have hybridized, and that's like a domesticated thing
Yeah.
now, basically, right? But yes, not to cut you off.
no, but they wouldn't do well in the wild,
Right, exactly.
which is why, yes, we favor those kinds of animals. But yes,
A good life, a good death.
Yeah.
And the process in between, because there's so much unnecessary suffering that happens end to end for animals that that could not be the case. Like, if we did things a little bit differently, and I hope, again, it's just people thinking about it a little bit more. Unfortunately, I think, the onus is not on the individual. Like, we can't all just make a decision and have it go away. It's, at a big institutional level. And, but a lot of other countries are able to sustain their populations with, like, relatively small, operations, and it's not industrialized to the scale. I mean,
I don't have a good answer for that, though, because part of it is our removal from the process is not entirely on the food industry. A lot of that's just us not being as connected.
It's right.
Or wanting to know.
Right. And it's this, but, like, it's not, you can't put the blame on any one stakeholder of it, right? Like,
Right.
because it started with individuals, and then it got bigger, and then it got to corporations, and then it got bigger, and it became an industry. And it's like this nebulous thing now that, like, no one person really has much power over it. And, it's very, yeah. And so all I can think about is go back to the bottom and say connection is the solve. That's it. Just connect with your food, connect with, people you love, connect with things around you and yourself, and, don't go through life, like, completely disconnected from it all. And I just think it's important, even if, you're not making 6 different changes, but, like, be curious and connect, and recognize also that all of us want that. We all want connection. That's fundamental. And I think that that's, I don't know, I think that that's huge. And I hope that people in this age of disconnection start to reprioritize, which I am seeing.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that a little bit?
Well, I got to add an asterisk to that.
Yeah.
I am a big believer that we are, there's a name for this, but I don't know what it is. It's this this max out capacity that we have for like a tribal number. So there's, right now, if I were to ask you to list off, 20, 30 friends, you could.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to ask you to list off 200 people, it starts to get challenging.
Yeah.
Right. Especially as you get further up there in the numbers.
Yeah.
Apparently some studies suggest that in the neighborhood of around 120, 130, something in that neighborhood, we're getting outside of our typical capacity for tribes as when we were,
Yeah.
hunter-gatherer types.
Yeah.
Right. I do think there is this kind of point in this, and I do feel like as you get older,
Yeah.
it scales back a little bit.
Yeah.
Where the younger you is like, social life,
Yeah.
expand. Ooh, awesome. Social media connects me to so many people. There's so many people I feel like I'm interconnected with, and I can't wait to just keep bouncing between them. And then seemingly as you get older, first of all, you're appreciating those people who you do have lasting, meaningful relationships with, but you also realize it just can't be 100 people.
Right.
It can't.
100%.
It
That's
doesn't
not
scale.
community.
Right.
And that doesn't bring connection.
Right.
You can't connect with 100 people at a time. Like, maybe you can in some circumstances, but I mean, like, really,
again, it gets back to meaningful
quality.
Yeah,
quality and quantity.
Right.
Yeah.
So to some degree, you're already, whether you even mean to or not, you're already making some level of distinctions and choices.
Absolutely.
Now, where I want to bring this back to AI is I'm already aware that I'm spending more time writing to an LLM than I am to my best friend.
Friends, right.
Right. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
To me, that suggests yet one more way in which I feel a bit more removed from what used to be a more interpersonal experience, particularly in being in person.
Right.
You and I did not physically meet before today.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
It is crazy. We've been working together a year and a half, I want to say.
Yeah.
Something like that.
About that.
You've been in charge of the team that has planned major events and a lot of things that are very consequential in my life.
Yep.
Our contract is consequential to your company.
Yeah.
In the world before this one, quite literally, in every generation before ours,
we would have never connected if it weren't in person.
Yeah, we would have met at least a few dozen times by this point. At least.
Right.
Probably because we were in the same town.
Right.
It would be logistically too ridiculous for us to work in different places.
Right.
But that's actually the better irony, is we aren't that far away from each other.
I know.
We're not like on the other side of the world.
I know.
But we can work this distant.
Yeah.
But it's also why I wanted to have this podcast. I wanted to have this podcast because I didn't want another Zoom call based podcast. I'll appear on a lot of them, but nothing replaces this.
No, I love that approach. I love that it's in person. It's so important. And like, I mean, honestly, for me, like, my co-founder and I have built a company remotely. Like, we've built a team remotely. We're in a couple weeks, we have our first like team retreat. All 5 of us are getting together in Mexico City, and like, that'll be amazing. But all 5 of us haven't. We've all like, met in person. Actually, I have one employee who I've not met in person, which is so weird. But like, we've been working together for a long time now, and it's, we have some newer folks, but like, it's so crazy to think about that, like, that we've literally started this company. And there's so many times a day where I'm just like, man, I wish I didn't have to text this person 6 times and I could just pop into their office down the hall and be like, hey, can we chat about this for a sec? But it didn't have to be a scheduled call. Like, you and I are pretty good about that, though. We'll just call each other and be like, hey, do you have a sec?
Well, part of it is just that if I anticipate that texting is going to come back and forth a few times.
Yeah.
And both you and I also have in common that we're hung up on meetings constantly.
Yeah.
There's just tons of meetings.
A lot of meetings. But if it can be handled in a quick phone call, fucking great.
Often that is way better.
Yeah.
To just
way better.
Roll something. The other issue is that a number of times there's just a delicacy to the nature of the communication.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I do not love about texts.
Yeah.
Is I find that it's difficult to kind of convey a sentiment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can try, but like right now, there's related to the research, there's some parties that I'm trying to have just a phone call with.
Yeah.
And I'm having difficulty getting them on the phone. And I think part of it's because they have busy days.
Sure.
In their mind, it's more efficient to do it through email.
Right.
And this all just brings me back to the enormous difficulty of how we really can function
Yeah.
very well with regard to having a living, with regard to conducting business, with regard to, maintaining contact with our loved ones across the country or overseas, etc. But I think we're paying a price that's not as obvious. I think there's a health price. I think there's a mental health price.
I agree completely. It's, it's interesting. And even like I love voice notes. My friends and I send voice notes all the time. And if, I have
should
some
get into
friends,
that more.
I feel like you'd love a voice note.
You might be right.
Yeah. Yeah. I love voice notes. I'm constantly sending and receiving, and people are like, oh, are you on the phone? I'm like, not really, but yeah, I don't know. Kind of. But I remember it was an episode of the Huberman Lab, and he was talking about like what happens to the brain when we're texting. It's nothing. Nothing happens. Like, we don't get any social boost, but hearing somebody's voice, we get the social boost. And so, like, the quality of connection is so important there. And, like, obviously, I think nothing beats in-person connection. Like, after this, I'm going to go see my two best friends in Washington, D.C. I can't wait. And we haven't all been together in 2.5 years. And that's like, I'm so excited. And so there are those things that, like, I don't know. I think the level of disconnection now that's around, it's making me be a lot more intentional about the connection that you didn't have to be a long time ago. Like, and honestly, not that long ago, but like when I was a kid growing up, like I would just walk over to my neighbor's house and be like, you want to play? And then we'd play. Like, it's not that complicated. And I live in a small town. I have never had an easier time making friends. I lived in LA for a long time. Like, it was so big and so spread out and like incredible. And I loved it, but it was way less organic to make friends. Where I live, everybody's happy to be a friend, and like, you have a lot in common, and it's
almost assumed
that
because it's small,
right?
How could they not know you? How could you not know them?
And people want to have a good time. They want to hang out. They want to do stuff. It's not like, oh, I have 6 events here. And even like I have a couple friends who are like busy people, and I hate the term busy, but I would consider myself scheduled. What's the way I want to?
I'll try to see if I can work
around that word.
Yeah.
But like, I have a lot going on, and other friends do too, but we still make time for each other. And it's like, oh, let's just grab dinner. And it's, it's all 10 minutes away maximum. So it's cool. It's nice that way. Or we go on a walk in the neighborhood. Like, I know my neighbors. I'm friends with my neighbors. My neighbors bring me citrus and cookies. Like, I'm living like the American pastoral dream of every generation. I feel like so blessed, but it's so, and I didn't even realize like how much I had missed that before I moved to where I live now, because it was like so different. And I used to live in the mountains too, which was very isolating and very like, it was just me and my partner, and we were kind of like, are we our only friends? And then the horses, and they were kind of like, you need lives. Like, the horses were like, this is a bit much from you. Like, I have definitely overmothered and been like, you're my whole world. And Tucker looks at me and is like, not mutual.
Your pet is like, this is too much responsibility for me.
I have a lot going on, actually, Mom. Like, please go find other habits. And
I just want to graze over here alone.
Yeah, I'd just like some peace. I'd like some peace, and I'd like to eat. And I need you to not be looking at my ear right now and trying to figure out what's wrong with me when nothing is. Yeah, but I don't know. It's a cool thing to. It feels like everything we talk about roots back to that connection, and that is just so fundamental. And I'm hearing
it's the business you're in.
It's the business I'm in, but it's the business a lot of us are in, and if not that, it's everything would benefit from more connectivity, like, and more. I don't know. It just comes down to strengthening community and building connection to me.
Let's
All of
jump
it.
into the industry itself. If because again, it's changed a lot since I was in it, assuming we would relate what you're doing to what I was doing from before. But this is what I remember, and I want you to correct me if any of these variables have changed.
Yeah.
One, very feast or famine.
Mm.
Very much big contracts, nothing, big contracts. You're trying to work out a lot of connections that can lead to, say, 3 gigs, 8 gigs, etc.
Yeah.
When you're in a leadership position, that's all the more challenging because there's just a lot of constant negotiating. That's what I remember was just par for the course on a regular basis. Lots and lots of dealing with people, and lots of events on the ground changing in real time. So it kind of takes a certain personality that is comfortable with a lot of chaos, which you can try to structure and you can try to plan to an extent.
Yeah.
But a lot of times the day could move based on a number of variables.
Yeah.
Is any of that still common for this industry?
Common? Sure. Definitely. I mean, also, we're in a moment where we have never had this much content being made and released. Like, it is if the golden age happened, this is the production age. Like, it's just, there's so much. So the industry has grown in a lot of really interesting ways. And
your point is well taken in that it's hard for me to imagine the level of gargantuan saturation. Like, it's
so crazy. And it's even harder to conceptualize when you think about how much consolidation there's been and like ongoing consolidation. But, credit to my co-founder, Lisa, shout out Lisa Nwankwo. She was always kind of like, and she has a very storied background in fundraising and journalism and nonprofit world. And she kind of came into film and was like, we don't have to do it this way. And I was like, yeah, I agree. We don't have to do it that way. So we sit outside of a lot of the typical, cogs in the wheels that, keep the industry spinning. A lot of that is still there for sure. And it's the feast or famine. But a lot of like what we do, we just we don't have a scarcity mindset. And we're like, oh no, this is right. And the projects that we get, the projects that we take, the films, like we're so amazed by the people who have, come to work with us. And like, we're grateful to be, associate producers, executive producers on some of these projects. It's a very rewarding thing to help shepherd these stories into the world. But, we kind of come in with like a capable mindset, and we don't take projects that we don't believe in. And when we believe in it, it's very easy to make it happen. And it's just kind of one of those things, like we have the system has been broken and like been remade rigid, and then it kind of falls apart again, and then everything is changing all of the time in the entertainment industry. Like, you've heard me talk about even just like licensing deals and licensing norms and like the going rate for X documentary in X, field. It is so different, and there are so many places to put it. But at the same time, is like, it's very hard right now, and doc film is having a very hard time. It's also never been better because we have so many
film as in
documentaries.
Yes.
We've never had this many alternative distribution options. And so we can kind of make it whatever we want to. And, think about, and again, it comes back to what I was saying earlier about it being right for the film. Like, what does this film need? And, for our film, The Cholesterol Code, and credit to Jen Eisenhart, our amazing director, who had a vision of people screening in theaters. I think that is a huge, huge, huge advantage for the film. You want to see this film in theaters with other people, and you want to talk about it afterwards. You want to go get popcorn and talk about it, or not popcorn, water. Ice chips.
Some people can have popcorn.
Some
That's
people
fine.
can have popcorn.
Some people have a hot dog without bun.
Great.
Whatever.
There you go. Okay. Hot dog without bun. Exactly.
So it's worth mentioning that at the time that we're recording this, yes, I think unmistakably there's been just such a huge victory with regard to this approach of having it, because you're talking about theaters. Let me set the table a little bit. Doing a true theatrical release requires a lot of money, requires a distributor, requires a lot of logistics, and for a documentary, it can be a bit challenging because there's a lot of upfront costs and risks and so forth. So there's this kind of indie route, if you will, that's very grassroots, where you basically go to the community at large and you say, hey, you can help us have a screening for your community where you are at. How do you do this? Well, you go to the cholesterol code, or actually, sorry, cholesterolcodemovie.com in our case. And there's a link, and a link takes you to this platform called Gather. That's GATHR.com. And in this platform, we have set up how you can sign up. You go to this map where you can choose and it detects where you're at, and it detects the theaters nearby. You choose the theater, you choose the showing. And there's sort of these sort of set aside periods. And what's happening is you're making an arrangement with the theater that's participating in the Gather platform to try to book it. And so how you book it is you first, as the person who's hosting it, you register, and then you go to your friends, your family, your community, and you say, hey, guys, register for a ticket. You don't get charged unless it happens. I don't get committed to this unless it happens. All of us, we're just trying to see if we can make it happen. And I was like, it'd be cool if we could get like 25 people, like by the time COSI happens, our major conference, like 25 would be great. We're up to, what's the latest count?
70 something.
70 something.
Minimum. And then we have way more than that probably happening.
Yes. Don't get our hopes too high.
TBD.
There's a partner we're talking to that may be adding quite a lot more. Regardless, just the fact that we have over 70 people that we're looking at
in 2 months.
In 2 months of, again, grassroots. We didn't do gigantic ad buys.
No.
We're getting help from Sean Baker and Eric Westman and Nina Teicholz. They've all pitched in to help us spread the word.
And Nick Norwitz. And I mean, there have been so many people, like it to me, from the outside looking in and from the outside coming into this community, like that's something that's very special about my job. I get to be a visitor in a lot of different places, and the keto low carb community, like to have a film that's speaking about this experience is very special to many. And it's that never gets old to me as an impact producer. I get to come in and just be like, wow, this means so much to people. And I know what it means to me, but like to see how this lands, it's very, very special. So to have this theatrical option and to have these hosts who have signed up and who have said, I want to bring this film to my community. It's not a, oh yeah, I'll click and rent the film for $5.99. Like that's not what this decision is. This decision is I'm going to host an in-person gathering, and I'm going to bring people together to watch this film and to sit in community and learn something and like just further this conversation and this way of thinking around how we think about health, and certainly cardiometabolic health, but just more broadly, like community health too, how we're coming together and how we're accountable to each other. And it's very special. And so I'm amazed at how this community has shown up. And, you and I had a lot of conversations about this, and I was like, Dave, this means a lot to people. And I remember telling you, like, I think it's going to be really big, this theatrical thing. And, you came around and you saw it and you were like, you were excited because you should be. But like, it's a story that you're the architect of, you and Jen, like bringing this film to life. I can't wait for the screenings to start happening and to start seeing it like take shape and get everybody to, be in front of it and have the conversations. I think it's just going to do so much. It's very exciting.
Yeah, it's well, as I just got done saying from earlier in the podcast, I always felt like going to the theater was its own experience. Yeah. And I have said this for quite literally several decades of my life, but for my family, who are also big moviegoers, we always kind of refer to it as group therapy because we just like to go and enjoy a theater movie experience together. And if you had asked me like 4 or 5 years ago, would this be big enough for anything beyond just going straight to streaming? Yeah. I would say I doubt it. Yeah. Hey, this Gather platform thing might be interesting. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see if we get enough people to sign, but it has just been coming out of the woodwork. Also, news that we just broke a few days ago is we have our first sold out.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's just like a month and a half away.
Yeah, I know.
Which is incredible. So you already have one theater. And I mean, it's still, I know. We just got out of January.
And Dr. Ken Berry is hosting a screening. Yes. Dr. Nina Teicholz, Dr. Tro. Like, we have so many great people who are coming in to host screenings and events. And it's very exciting. And it feels, for me, rewarding. I can't even imagine, like, you thinking about, little boy Dave in the theater, then going to see. I mean, I loved, like, even the pictures from COSI, which I was not at last year, but, it's a special thing to watch a film in a theater. And, it's interesting, like 4 or 5 years ago, if you had said Impact was bringing people together to watch the film together, people would have looked at you like, are you an idiot? Like, okay, what? So, and now it's like, what's the call to action? What's the call to action? And Lisa and I have just realized so much. It's just about creating the space for people to come together and to share an experience and reminding us what connection feels like and having that anchor us and being like, oh my God, like, look, we all have mutual interests. We might disagree on every other thing, but we're both interested in this film, or we both laughed at this film, or we both, whatever. Like, what a powerful thing that film has the power to do, and TV and, any long form storytelling. It's amazing. And I think this film is a great example of the space. And, obviously we're doing a lot of things on our campaign and very exciting things, but, and a lot of different kinds of events, etc. But it's very hard to think about something that makes me more excited than like just people coming together to watch something and then talking about it after. And it's like just sparking genuine connection. And it's kind of sad that that's my like threshold for super high impact, but that's where we are right now. And it probably won't be that way in 10 years. Maybe it'll be completely different. Maybe in 5 years, it'll be completely different. But for right now, that's what we need. And
I guess I have a little bit of optimism to sprinkle on that. I mean, COVID should have wiped out theaters.
Totally.
I'm
agreed.
Honestly, at the time, I think the theater business
we're still recovering from that. We're recovering from that disconnection, right? I mean, we were like, I also just think about the generation of kids who are going to grow up like a little weird.
Yeah.
Because they miss some socialization. But that's huge, right? Like the COVID piece is big.
It is. And I remember you and I had a discussion pretty early on when we were exploring this option. And I went to look up the numbers because I just genuinely didn't know myself, how much had the theater industry really lost.
Yeah.
And it's not a small number.
Mm-mm.
I think, if my memory serves, what's been recovered is close to something like the upper 50s or lower 60%, something like that. So around, let's round it to 2/3. 2/3 of people have come back to watching at the theaters.
I think it was lost 35%.
Yeah.
Memory
So that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So make no mistake, that's a lot. However, I would have predicted a much larger number had fully abandoned it.
Right.
And I was wrong on that.
Right.
I think that and the other factor is, my friends and I are into comic book movies because we're all nerds. And I love MCU in particular. And so one thing that I've gotten tired of is right now there's this claim that there's comic book movie fatigue because there's so many comic book movies. There may be a little bit of merit to it, but for those of us who are geeks, we're going to.
Yeah.
But the other one is post-COVID. Post-COVID, the blockbuster is just not as big as it once was, and there's not a... And to all of that, I say bollocks.
Yeah.
Because while there's been bad movies that have been released, the good movies that are released make big waves.
Mm-hmm.
They make $1 billion. It's still happening.
Yeah.
When you put out a good product.
Right.
So, moral of the story, make a good product.
Yeah.
Make something really amazing.
Yeah.
And this morning I got done calling Jen Eisenhart, and I told her this is like really happened a few hours ago. As I said, I watched the final output. This happened last night. This is what's actually in its final form. It's sound mixed, everything.
I haven't even seen it yet.
And yeah, I watched it carefully for all the details.
Yeah.
And then I called her this morning. I just said, I just wanted to straight up call you to congratulate you for making such an amazing film for us.
Yeah.
Because it is just a jewel.
Yeah.
It is just amazing. And frankly, while we haven't gotten into this part yet, maybe we'll talk about it, maybe we won't. We had a version of the film from last year. Mm-hmm. And then some things happened. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get too into it, but I will say it added to the edit of the film. Yeah. But on top of that, it gave them an opportunity to further tighten it. Yep. So there was further love that Bill Crum gave to it. He's our editor, phenomenal guy. Yeah. And it's all the better for it. It's such an amazing film now. Yeah. And if I'm just betting on the quality component. Yeah. I think we got a pretty good shot.
Yeah. It's special when you have something that so much care went into and that, there's very clear intention behind it and attention to detail with all of it. But you can really tell it was values-based at every level. Like, it was never about convincing people to live a certain way. It was always about exploring this phenomenon through very human stories and through very real people experiencing major challenges and now remission, health, beauty in life, like because of what their nutritional therapy has given them. And it's a very special intersection of things. And it makes me really energized and happy to see just the reception and how excited people are. But, I've always loved how passionate you are about it. Obviously, you're most of the film, but it's not super common to have this level of like thoughtfulness put into telling a story like this. It's usually, we could get away with some gimmicky stuff. We could get away with, a variety of different things cheap shots, if you will. What we have now is human-centric stories that tell a larger story about what we're seeing and asks more questions than ever before about how we think about cardiometabolic health, but also like it never loses sight of the heart of the film, which is people and healing. Like if I had to sum it up, it's about healing, you know? And I think it's a perfect time for it. I think people are ready for it. I think it's, you know, people need it. And it's an exciting moment for it, for sure.
I think we definitely have a central tension that I in the community experienced for like the last 10 years is a number of folks going, wow, you know, I really like this diet. I like this lifestyle. Yeah. Wait, what?
Yeah.
there's just this one thing.
Yeah.
But what I loved a lot was our early choice to not find people who are just about weight loss. The weight loss story is an interesting one, but it's already told so many times over.
Yes.
We're looking at those folks like Robin Dobbins, like Jen Unwin.
Yeah.
They have special benefits from being very low carb and ideally ketogenic for them.
Right.
That they have to confront this problem head on.
100%. And I think that, you know, the weight loss thing, which I mentioned earlier and you just touched on, it's not that that's not a central tenet of things, but I have friends in their 40s, 50s whose doctors were just like, lose weight. And they're like, what? Okay. Like, A, I can't, like I'm struggling, you know, oh, great, poof, done. But it's like, why are we just going off of these little numbers and that's it? We're not asking deeper questions. We're not getting more in the weeds. We're not acknowledging different phenotypes. We're not like digging in and saying, okay, well, actually, like, you know, what are your other symptoms? Like, you having any mental health stuff? Has your anxiety? Like, you know, all of that. It's, you just got to lose weight. Like, and it just feels so myopic to me to button it down, boil it down to that. And rather than looking at it holistically, because weight in and of itself, I would say, is a lot like cholesterol markers in that, and to quote Brett Scher, and this is my favorite thing of his, and he's probably like, she needs to stop saying this, but he was like, it's not everything, but it's not nothing.
Right.
There's more to the story, but like there are, I'm sure, a lot of very metabolically healthy people that have high BMIs. And what are we going to do about that? Are we just going to say, oh, you're not healthy? Yikes. Like, no, there's more to the story. And so I love that this film does that. And I love that this film comes in, again, from an entry point of healing. It's not lose the weight. Like, you know, there's so much shame based on that. And so much like, you know, even look at the show The Biggest Loser. I used to love that show. I watched it all the time. I remember watching it like reruns on Thanksgiving. Like, so weird. But like, you know, we have enough diet culture stuff. This film is not that. This film is about healing, and it's about setting people up to heal if, you know, if this is the right path for them. And yeah, it's just very special. Very special.
I think that's a good place to wrap.
I think so too.
Claire, where can people find you?
carrotimpact.com. I think that's it. I have no social media.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, you have no social media. Usually people are rattling off like 10 different things, but
no, it's carrotimpact.com, and my 5th grade email address, which is horseloverlou25@gmail.com. That is defunct, but that's the only other handle I can think of. Otherwise, carrotimpact.com.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Dave. It was a pleasure.